Here, because President Trump told us we had something big to look forward to, and I believe that Vice President Pence was going to certify the electoral votes or not certify them, but I guess that's just changed, correct? And it's a very big disappointment. I think there's several 100,000 people here that are very disappointed, but I still believe President Trump has something else left.
Still haunting, right? We now know, thanks to special counsel Jack Smith's expansive and unsealed filing of evidence, that this is exactly what Donald Trump was watching when he hit send on that 2:24 p.m. tweet attacking Vice President Mike Pence and fueling the deadly insurrection. According to the filing, the ex-president was enraptured by his supporters storming the Capitol, watching it on a loop, displayed by forensic evidence that, quote, the defendant sat in the dining room by the Oval Office where he used his phone to review Twitter and watch the television, which was turned on and displaying news coverage of the riot at the Capitol. And the filing details just how desperate he was to cling to power, with a White House staffer at one point hearing the ex-president tell a family member this, quote, it doesn't matter if you won or lost the election, you still have to fight like hell. Joining the table, former top prosecutor at the Department of Justice, MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman. Mara is still here. It's been 24 hours, and the evidence, the case he put together just jumps off the page as devastating.
Absolutely. A few things. One, the comment from the former president that this is election interference, it's worth remembering the reason that this brief was filed was because Donald Trump prevailed in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court told the district judge, you have to hear from the parties, look at the facts, and specifically look at the context of all of the evidence and decide what is official and immune and what is unofficial as a candidate and thus can go to trial. So the brief, all of this is because Donald Trump appealed, won, and now the district judge is doing exactly what the Supreme Court said.
He's always been a terrible winner. Like, Trump is the only politician I've ever covered who wins and is more mad.
And to be fair, this brief points out that he's a terrible loser, in that the amount of proof and the difference between this brief and the January 6 hearings is the amount of direct proof with people in the room with him, up to and including Mike Pence, is voluminous, even when you take out, as the Supreme Court required, all of the Department of Justice evidence, things that the Supreme Court said cannot be considered. There is so much proof here of somebody who knew he lost, who said to people, I don't care that I lost, I'm still going to go forward. And then with respect to the clip that you just played, both threatened Mike Pence in terms before saying, you know, if you continue with your view that you are not going to help me, I am going to essentially sick the mob on you. And then the response, as has been widely reported, when he is told that is exactly what happened, he said, so what? So the sort of picture of Donald Trump as such a deeply flawed human that is willing to do all of this, including to his own vice president, is something that's very hard, just even as a psychological matter, to understand the makeup of that you would turn to your vice president who is saying, I can't do this because the Constitution doesn't allow it. And you would turn to that person and say, I am going to threaten you. And then when you actually are threatened, I'm not going to do anything. That's just somebody who's been loyal to him for that long.
Tell me how much you learned from Pence's testimony, because it feels like that is the biggest bucket of new content that we have in here, but that even in that bucket, there are clearly notes, there are clearly meetings, there are the meetings that Pence's staffers, people like Mr. Short and Mr. Jacobs, were in, and we saw some of that come to life in the congressional probe. But there are a lot of one-on-one meetings that, if you add that to the timeline, really deepen our understanding of Trump's one-on-one pressure campaign.
Well, first, just in terms of corroboration, this isn't going to be just Mike Pence. You do have his contemporaneous notes that are referenced. as you said, there are people around him to say, because he reached out to all sorts of people and talked to them. So we know, for instance, that after Donald Trump threatened him, that his people reported that to Secret Service because they understood very well what would happen, and they were right that was needed. One of the things that I found.
Is that knowledge, not just on Trump's part, but on Pence's part, of the possibility or the likelihood of violence?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they understood that that is what was going to happen because of what Donald Trump did. And Donald Trump understood it. That was why he was threatening it. It was because he wanted to use it to his advantage. Remember, this was like his last gasp at trying to stay in office. All of this for power that he was not entitled to. I mean, this goes back to sort of the discussion you were having, which is you read this submission, and it is impossible to think that we have a true existential crisis in this country. That idea that this is somebody who is doing so well running for office, when you sit there and think, how can people not read this? And the only thing I was thinking when you were talking in the prior segment is for people who are enablers to really call them out. For the people, whether it's newspapers, I know this show has you cover it to fairly well, but I think newspapers, politicians, corporations that are trying to hedge their bets and giving money to both sides, you really need to sort of say, are you reading what this is and what this means for America?
Well, I have to sneak in a break, but I want to drill down on how much new evidence we have about his willingness to make things up, because there are kids and families in Springfield, Ohio, who are living under the burden of that. And there's a brand new body of reporting in the New York Times about how he wants to politicize DOJ. So it's not just telling them who to target. I think this filing makes clear that he'll make things up about anything.